Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Medium's Table. I'm your host, Michelle Gardner. This podcast is your personal invitation to join me at the intersection of the everyday and the extraordinary. Together, we'll explore the magic of mediumship, share spiritual stories, and connect with fellow mediums on this incredible journey. So grab a seat, pour yourself a cuppa, and come join us at the Medium's Table, where spirits gather and stories unfold. Disclaimer, just a heads up to all our lovely followers. Our social media is a space where we share personal stories, including those of various mediums. Let's keep the vibe positive and respect each other's beliefs. Every journey is unique, and here we celebrate the diversity of experiences. I'd like to welcome to the show longtime friend, beautiful soul, spiritual healer, medium, spiritual therapist and teacher, and also an author, Karen. Welcome to the show, Karen. I am so pleased to have you here.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Tell us a little bit about your books, because you're an author. Let's start there first.
Yes. This is the book I wrote called Giving Up the Ghost, Let Go of Grief and Restore Your Life.
I love that cover. That is gorgeous.
And the back side, it's got little hearts, and that's what the other side is like. And we connect heaven and earth. And
Yeah.
I worked at a funeral home for 11 years and did all their grief groups, and can't wait to share with you what was it like.
Fantastic. My God, that sounds amazing. Wow. And have you written any other books, or is that just the only book so far?
No, actually, I've written 5 books. And
Wow.
this is one of them, and I have others, so I can wait till next time to share those.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Karen. So tell us how you got to where you are today. What happened there?
Well, I came from New York, and Mom and Dad were not getting along, and so they decided to split up. And I was left trying to deal with my brothers, who were twins. And I was like asking what was going on. And I always felt that there were angels with me, that there was guidance with me, that I was never alone. And I want to say, everybody, we're not alone. You're never alone. There's always your guides, your angels, your spirit friends, your ascended masters. And I felt like I got taken care of by Archangel Michael and all the spirits that were in there trying to help me grow when things did not work out well, considering I had all kinds of abuse when I was growing up from my family. There was a whole bunch of domestic violence. It was very painful. And I didn't know what to do. So my father one day had done his domestic violence with my mom, and I felt so bad. There was nothing I could do. And he just dropped me down the stairs, and I fell on a bunch of clothes. And I was about 5 years old. And I was like, God, I don't want to keep doing this. Why don't you just take me? Just take me now. All of a sudden, I saw this angel come in, and this angel's name was Ishmael. An angel spoke to me. An angel said, Karen, you're not going to die. You're going to grow up, and you're going to write a book about healing from childhood abuse. And I said, me? Are you sure? And he said, yes. And that was the first time that I felt that angelic hand laying on my shoulders, helping me feel like there's something where I could get help. I know I lost my grandma and grandpa early, and it was really sad to do that. And one day I was in my house and I felt a presence. And I was like, Grandma, because I felt, I was close to my grandma, and I felt like she was there in the room. And I was like, Grandma, don't hurt us. I didn't realize then that when they come to visit, it's not to harm anybody, it's to show you peace. My mom, as a waitress, 12 hours a night. They didn't have DCFS back then. We got to stay at home. My brothers and I had to watch them. And I always felt that, when mom wasn't there, that grandma was around and she was watching us. So I all of a sudden started to feel my intuition, like, what's going on here? There's something besides this earth that's leading me, that's guiding me. And I would visualize, positivity things. I was very religious, but I was really not as religious as I didn't go to church as much, but I always felt protection from harm. Like I would walk outside and there would be nobody around me. Nobody was there. And I always felt protected, like nobody was going to harm me. I could walk distances and I always felt that I was okay. And I just think that for me, it was always that I had help, even though I was being hurt and hurt. I always felt I was being loved and cared for at the same time.
Yeah.
I had two brothers. One's named Michael and one was named James. And I used to take care of them. And I didn't know how to do this. I was 6, 7 years old. I didn't know how to take care of kids. I made hamburgers and fries for them, but I didn't know how to really care for them. But it came from the inside. And my brother Michael was, both of them were emotionally and how can I say this? They were emotionally in a hard time. They were hurt as children from being in the violence, and they were mentally ill. And my brother Michael was always a very loving soul. And he would always ask, Karen, why do bad things happen? Why do bad things happen? Why are people nicer? And he really got me to think, because he would see people and try to be with them and they didn't want to. And he would always ask me, well, what's going on? Why I don't know why I can't feel alone, why I feel alone. But then later he joined some religious group himself. And I was when I was in college, I would send him things. He would send me cards. He was very sweet. You're my special sister. And I didn't know what to do with him because one day I sent him an angel. He lived in California. What happened is he wanted to get away from my mother. So he packed a little suitcase and went out the window and took a train to California. So now he's in California and he wants to have his own life. And I always felt good for him that he was able to live in a group home. He had friends. He went to the flea market. He sold coins. And it was really neat. And one day I sent him an angel in the mail. And he told me that the angel broke. And I was like, oh, no, that's not a good sign. And my brother started saying things to me like, hey, if I die, bury me with mom. And I'm like, Mike, you're not going to die. What are you talking about? And he would say, really, bury me with mom. And so I was like, and then he's mad because my mother was in a place where she could hear the train. And he says, Mom's hearing the train. I said, Mom can't even hear the train. Don't worry about it. It's a good place. So one day I was talking to him and he called at night. And he never called at night. And he said, Karen, we have to forgive people. And I'm like, what are you talking about, forgive people? What do you mean? And he didn't really say anything to me. And the next day, I was told that my brother got hit by a full-size van in California on his way, walking to the flea market. And because he didn't drive his car that day, he walked with all the coins. And he got hit by a full-size van, and it propelled him up, down. He was gone. And I didn't know what to do. And he told me, he said, I didn't feel any pain. Mom came to get me, and she took me before anything happened. So I was able to talk with him. I also knew that I had to go to New York to wake him. And he said, why don't you go look at the front door and there'll be some black pants in there. And I'm like, how did he get black pants? What are you talking about? So I said, I went in there and there were black pants in there from my husband who had bought them for me without me even noticing. So my brother is all trying to teach me when everything was going bad for him, but he was happy because he was with mom. And I think that he had given me a chance to see how spirit works. And he gave me the opportunity to learn about unconditional love and the spirits and how they work together, and that he wasn't alone, and that he did have help, and mom was with him, and that they had some kind of positivity. And I always think we are all angels with one wing. We have to embrace one another to fly. And for my brother, he flew up to heaven and was very happy. He told me that I should go to the dollar store and get all kinds of cheap angels, like big angels. So I did, and I bought some angels, and my brother told me who to give them to for people who've helped him. He said, send this one to my Barbara. She was always with me. She always helped me. Send this one to this teacher. Send this one. So my brother is teaching me that heaven is a beautiful place and that he's thanking people for giving him love or kindness or caring. And I thought that was a very positive thing. I always thought he was like an angel when he came down. And a lot of times kids would steal from him when he would have his coin collection out. He knew that the kids were going to steal from him. He didn't care. He just wanted to be a good man. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to get married, but I have heard him say that he has a girlfriend up in heaven. So I know there's a girl there for my brother, and I feel very, very happy about it. But my brother taught me that it's okay to face death because he got taken away from the pain, and that he would at least be in a good place. He has his girlfriend now, and he continued to speak to me for many years after that. And what I did as being a social worker, I figured I could help my parents, get better. But the reality is I couldn't help anybody but myself. But my parents, I said, I'm going to go learn how to fix them so this way they will, be back together. And I realized that I couldn't. And I realized that I had a lot of fear in me. But I also had faith that I was given the purpose to write my book. So how can I write my book unless I become a social worker and see people? So that's what I did. I did counseling from the gut. I had an intuition in there. And the higher self said to me, my divine self said, Karen, just trust me. Just trust me. Put your name out on the door and trust me. And I was like, I was afraid to go do it on my own. But he taught me, my higher self said, Karen, you can do this. This is part of the plan. So I always knew there was a spiritual plan and that other people were there. And I got to work with people who were dealing with grief, people who were dealing with abuse. And I figured, well, I know what that's like, and I can help you. So I felt that God was giving me a chance to be a healer, to help people, and to do good in the world, and to believe that there's goodness and love and not fear only. So I had a very fearful childhood, but my adult, after college, I went to graduate school in Chicago. My mom's from New York. She goes, where is Chicago? I said, it's halfway across the country, because people in New York, they don't think of anything besides New York. So they're sitting there, so mom's like, okay, I guess you got to go. So I worked at this funeral home. I never thought I'd work in a funeral home doing grief groups. And I came across the most lovely people. They lost their loved ones. I worked at the funeral home with a wonderful bunch of people. It was for 11 years. And I heard every story that you can imagine. But you know what? I never lost anybody. No one ever died from their loss. So, you know what they say? We teach what we most need to learn. And I have had so many losses in my life. I figured I've got to do something to help people. So that's when I wrote this book, Giving Up the Ghost. I would have my groups, there's men and women in them. Then I would hear people's voices telling me, hey, that's my wife. And I'm like, what? And it's like, tell her I'm here. Tell her I'm here. And I was like, what? And then so I started listening, and I could hear the husbands on the other side saying, my wife is going to have a birthday. Why don't you go to Kohl's and I'll tell you what you can get? And I'm saying, I got to go shopping for you? I'm like, this is not in the thing. So I go to Kohl's, and the man is talking to me in my head. So I have radio, but no television. I can't see him, but I can hear him. And he's saying, go over this. So I bought this thing like a beach and a little clock. And he said, I said, okay, I'll get that for your wife. And then when I saw his wife, I gave her the gift, and she said, well, that's like San Diego, where we always used to go. And that she loved it. It made perfect sense to her. And I was the one doing it. Then I was on airplanes, people coming up to me, telling me they just had a loss. I would carry angels in my bag because I feel like I'm the ambassador of the dead, because I'm explaining to the people that their loved one are okay. I'm in Disneyland, and we're doing the mermaid. And people came up and said, I lost my husband 4 weeks ago, and I'm here. And I would say, I'm going to tell you, I know you were going to be here, and I'm saying it's going to be okay. So there I am in Disneyland with my kids, and I'm doing this. So I always gave angels to people. I always had hope. I said, never give up. I have rabbi spirit guides. I have a Jewish soul. I love my Jewish people. I'm Catholic, but I had enormous guides. They come as rabbis, but they're really angels. So they come as rabbis, and they make me laugh. They tell me stories. These are my friends, it seems like. They lift me up. They want to tell me good things. They ask me to do things for the world, which I do. So right now, I feel that I can send my spirit with people who need to know that there is something after this. There are good things that they can have, and that their loved ones are still there with the same personalities as they had when they were on Earth. And I was asked in Disneyland, my friend Becky, her husband died at 55. He was very young. She was very young. And when I'm at Disneyland, Becky's living alone, and she's, not really happy. He goes, I want you to get a Tinkerbell. I'm like, what? And so I'm listening, and it's not that I'm feeling invaded. I just allow them to talk. And I said, okay, I buy her, whatever I bought, what he asked. And then she, I give it to her. She puts it in her truck. And she said, I love when you bought this for me. And that's what my husband would always want. And so I feel like I had the connection with all the hubbies. And sometimes they would look at me and say, tell my wife I love her. And then I would go, who? And he would point. And in my head, I would say, okay. And I go up to the lady and I said, your husband wants you to know he loves you. And she said, well, he would never say that. And I said, well, he just said it to me. And so I felt like this was fun to me. This was a joy. This was like the best thing you could ever have, is to know the other side is we're connected to heaven. And then we would have our candlelight vigils where there'd be 150 people, and we'd all be thinking of our loved ones at Christmas time. And we all had a candle, and we would pray, and we would light the candle in our loved one's presence, and know that that they can see the light from up in heaven. So anybody who's in heaven, if you light something, and I don't mean burn your house down, If you light a candle, they will see it and they will come. A lot of times people put their loved one's picture out and then a candle and they see them. So I just want you to know they could be anywhere. They could be around you and you wouldn't even know it. And I'm telling you this, I used to go to see James Van Praagh, and he had so many people claiming to get to him. He, poor man, had like a line of all these people willing to get to their loved ones. And they knew what was happening in their houses. They didn't like this person. They had an opinion on it. And they actually said, I'm going on the trip with you. You're not going alone. I'm going with you. So the loved ones would go with them and spirit. So just know if there's a wedding or a funeral or whatever, they're going to be there. And I've had people, husbands who died who are trying to get their wives to listen. Some of them didn't know how. And they say, how come you're not talking? And I would talk to them and say, he is trying to talk to you. You need to do this. So I'm like the ambassador, and I have the best job in the world. I get to spread Spirit's message of love and light, to be a medium, to share with people how we can all live in harmony and how we can still have them in our lives, because love never dies. And it's always with you, and it'll always be with you. And so I just want you to know we can get over abuse. We can embrace each other, to fly, to go where we need to go in life, and to know that they're with us and that they love us, and that that's never going to change. And I just want to leave you all with the acknowledgement that we can live a happy life even if they're past, and we will be with them one day again. But we can be with them and we don't see them. That doesn't mean they're not there. So for me, I took my life that was not fun, that was terrible to me, and I turned it into something positive. I used my life as positive. I used it as, there's got to be a better way, because it can't be that cold and mean. So I would find it. I said, I have to find it. And to me, it's like over the rainbow. I've also written other books to try to teach people that we can trust our inner selves, because many times my higher self is connected to God. And it would say, when I put that office out, people came. When they say, if you build it, they will come. And one lady said to me, well, there's a lot of people who need it. So yeah, you're going to be getting some people. But whoever needs to come to me comes. Whoever needs to do therapy with me does therapy. And I feel like I'm in the best shape that I ever could be in. And nothing is fearful anymore, because I have the light. I have my higher self who helped me through that childhood and helped me through that college and the difficult times. And I feel like I'm here to be of service. So anything that people need, I'm of service. And that's my job. And to me, it's the best job in the world. And I wouldn't change it for anything. And my history had to be what my history had to be. And I accept it and forgive those who harmed me, and forgive myself for not knowing what I couldn't know. So I just want to send love and light to everybody out there. Just know you're never alone, and that we all can help each other and fly and have a life worth love and positivity. I'm going to say amen. Thank you very much.
That is an incredible story, Karen. That's an incredible journey. And the other side could not, the spirit world could not have asked someone more kind, more loving, more compassionate and genuine to, speak on their behalf than you. Because that is, that's exactly, I've never heard you say an unkind word towards anyone. You're always full of positivity and hope. And it just radiates from you. So they couldn't have asked a better person to, speak on their behalf. That's incredible. What an incredible journey. So was this gift in your family? Did anyone in your family ever talk about that? Aunties, uncles, grandparents? Did you ever see that coming out in anyone? Were they able to hear the spirit world?
I don't think they were, but I'm not sure. I know my daughter sees angels, but she doesn't want to delve yet. And I don't blame her. She's a young adult, but nobody else except my father. My father would talk about when there was ghosts in his room, and he would tell them to get out. He lived in Brooklyn, and he was growing up, and I think they had like all kinds of sirens that would come out. They were part of the war. And my dad would always be scared. And I always heard him say that he knew that there were ghosts and he was going to confront them. And I thought that was for a little boy pretty good, saying, hey, this is my room, get out. So my father knew all those things too. And I'll tell you, when I was cleaning out his house, and I had to do it myself, I saw a picture there of my dad on a horse. And I'm like, I don't know why. That's very odd. So one of his friends came over, and I said, my dad said, hey, you need to show this to that man, who's coming over. I didn't know him. I'm like, excuse me, do you know whose picture this is? My dad's on a horse. He says, yes, that's my daughter's birthday party when she was 10. And your dad came and it was fun. And my dad would tell me the funniest things. He'd go, Karen, look for money anywhere you need to look. Go under the stairs, go in every pocket. And I'd be like, Dad, what are you talking about? So I'm like in his house alone. Nobody's there. And all of a sudden, I'm looking through the pockets. I go, Dad, is there any money in here? And he goes, made you look. And I'm like, what? I just spent 5 hours looking. Thanks a lot, Dad. You're a real prince. And he had all he made like a game out of it. He had all his his papers in one big box, but he wouldn't give me the key. He said, you have to find the key. And where it ended up, I would never have found it. So I took a big old hammer and I banged the thing open, right? Because I was doing it for him. I banged the thing open, it opens. And my neighbor comes in at that time and the phone rings. And I said, that's my dad. And so he opened up, Ted said, it's dead. I said, no, that's not dead. That's my dad. He knows we're in his stuff. So I felt my dad be there in all little funny ways when I was there a week trying to get his house sold. And you know what? His house sold to somebody else on his street, and actually saw the house as a gift and said, if I get this gift, I'm going to put some kind of a roof on, a different roof. I'm going to add addition. And he was so happy with the house. And my father would always feed the birds. And I would always say to him, why do you, he was very loving that way. He'd feed the birds every morning. And when he was passing, I was at the hospital and I kept hearing, they had like a screen, and I kept hearing birds. And I'm like, what is this with the birds? And my higher self said, that's where he's going, to paradise with the birds, with the peace, with the love. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like talking to my dad, and he goes, am I dying? And I look at him, I'm like, no. And then he said, you better tell him he's dying. I said, yes, you are. And he goes, will you please be quiet? I'm losing what I'm getting. And I was like, what? And he's like, just be quiet. I'm seeing stuff that I don't, makes me think I'm dead. I'm like, well, you keep on seeing those people. It was my brother. It was my mother. It was everybody on the other side was waiting for him. So I always felt he went there and they talked. I'm sure angels came to him and said, it's almost your time. But he wanted to see what he wanted to see. So it means that heaven is a really good place. And he was happy to get there. And I know my consultant, Nancy Ging, she had a beautiful heart and soul. And she did therapy too. And when she died, I was really upset, but I know that she died with a smile on her face. Her kids said that she was smiling. And I thought that was the best gift she could give them. And I felt connected at that point, like Nancy's going to be okay. And Nancy was, she was diagnosed with cancer. They gave her 2 years. My consultant lived 14 years. And she saw every healer you can imagine. And she had HEAL on her license plate, heal. And that's exactly what she did. She was 14 years with her own soul, her own journey. She took her time and she didn't even look 79 she looked 40 to me. So she lived a beautiful life too. And the people around me, I see how the endings become new beginnings because they leave here, but someone's waiting for them over on the other side. And I just want you to know that it's exciting to know that people are loving and that the other side is a happy place. And I'm glad my dad and I were able to work out our problems, and I forgave him for things he did. And he says, for everything? And I said, yes, for everything. So if you've got something holding on to you that's hurting your heart, all that anger and negativity, let it go. Let go, let God, let it go and open your heart because it can eat you up. And I've had clients who have been so sick to their stomachs, literally holding in anger and not forgiving. So I'm going to ask you all to try to forgive. And I'm not saying forget, and I'm not saying it ever goes away, but it can get better. And the forgiveness is not for the person you're forgiving. It's for you. It's for you to heal. So my job is to say, let that go. It's very hard for people to let go. Forgiveness of myself for things that I said to myself or did to myself. I don't have to hold that against myself. I can say, I'm okay. And I forgive me. And so part of the thing, I had a friend in college who said, you know how life is? It's like a mountain. And you get to the top of the mountain, and there's a sign there that says, I forgive you. Love yourself. And I always remember that because that's what we're doing, trying to forgive, trying to live, and trying to have integrity and be loving. And I'm so glad that I turned that negativity into love. And y'all can do it too. And I have more stories I can tell you. But for right now, just know there is a God, there is a heaven. You're not alone. And let's embrace each other to fly. Let's just hold on to each other because that's what makes it great. Especially when you see 150 lights in front of you and you see everybody in the light. It's a gift, and I'll never forget it. Yeah. And I'll never forget anybody that I ever worked with because they're in my heart.
Wow, incredible. Thank you. Thank you so much, Karen.
You're welcome.
Amazing words that words in themselves are healing, and I can feel that coming from you. Just incredible. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining us on the show today. It's been an honor, a pleasure. It's been so uplifting and inspiring. Your journey is incredible. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm spiritcoachkaren.com. They can call me at 708-352-6587 if they are interested in hearing more. I can be also, you can look online. You'll see all my books. And you can go to Amazon if you're looking for any books that I wrote. They have them. And I'll be back for sure.
Fantastic. Thank you. And I'll put all that information in the show notes as well so people can find you easily. And thank you again, Karen, for being on the show. And I look forward to having you back very, very soon. Thank you.
I will. And God bless everybody.
To view the show notes, head over to themediumstable.com.au. If you want to watch these episodes, head over to our YouTube channel, The Medium's Table Podcast.